What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. I am Mike. With me is Josh and Steve. The Hounds took 2 wins this week to now sit all alone at the top of the league, not just the Eastern Conference, the league. And that is reason to celebrate. Let's go! It never goes off smoothly. It never does. I'm like hitting the button to play the intro so I can stop, and it's just not playing. And
it's because you're leaning away. You're not getting the force.
I think
on it.
that's got to be what it is. Yeah.
I also like that the "Let's Go" is now only for when the team's doing very good. Like you've earned a "Let's Go."
That's
It's
right.
not just like hey, I default on "Let's Go." It's just like
That's
no,
right, man.
you don't get a "Let's Go" unless you deserve it.
I need to go drink some tea. Like I gotta like it's a lot on the vocal cords. Yeah. What's going on, gentlemen? Josh, how was your weekend?
Good. I was in Ohio and still made it in time for Saturday's game. So yeah, I went home on Friday night, spent the night in Ohio, and then went to my mom's retirement party, and then left straight from there and drove to Pittsburgh to make the game on Saturday.
What time did you guys get there?
Like I went by myself. Like Liz got a ride. She didn't go to Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So like she was able to go to tailgate, do everything like normal. But yeah, I didn't like leave Ohio until like 3:30. So I got there at like 6:30. So like I was rolling up like right as the game was about ready to start.
We got there because the big push was for the little Highmark stadiums, which we'll talk about in a second. We got there and it was probably a little bit after 5. And typically my youngest is all about the Steel Army tailgate. But today, on Saturday, he was like, we're getting in line. We're being one of the first 500. We're getting in line. So I was like, well, let's at least like swing by the tailgate. And it looked like at that point, it almost felt like there was nobody there. Steve, I didn't even see you there. I was like, Josh isn't like, where's Josh? And at that point, my family's like dragging me away. And I was like, okay, fine, let's go get in line. And then I saw Liz show up, I don't know, like a half hour before the gates open. I didn't realize you guys had your own little, season ticket holder line to sort of skirt everything. She was yelling at me across the crowd to tell me to rub in all of the sunscreen I had all over my face, which I thought I had in, and my family just failed to tell me. Steve standing 2 feet away, he didn't tell me. I had to rely on Liz. So
I saw it, but didn't think anything of it. And then I looked down at my watch and see in the Slack chat that Liz is telling you to rub it in. We just all lost it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But no, it was a fun weekend. Steve, other than the game, anything else go on this weekend?
No, this weekend was a bit quieter, which was good because the previous weekend, or the previous week, Thursday was out in Hershey for my friends from Flagstaff. We're playing a concert. So I went out to see that, came back Friday. Sunday, drove up to Syracuse to see my best friends till Thursday. So just having the Hounds game was kind of nice. That was the only thing on my schedule. A little more time to relax because I'm going out this Friday, going out to Lebanon to see Justa and Laura Ellen, and we're going to the Brighton and Chelsea preseason match in Philly. So I'll go out there. No, not the only thing on my schedule. How am I forgetting this? Last night started a new D&D campaign in person with friends here in Ambridge. And so we're going to be playing every other week, but we'll be playing again next Sunday to get it on the right weeks for our DM. So pretty cool. Like first time I've played in person with people. I've only ever played online. We're having a blast. A lot of the people are good friends of mine. So yeah, really fun. But yeah, Hounds game. Being there, being back in the environment, especially after trying to watch on my laptop before playing categories on Wednesday night, where I could not see things as clearly because it's a 11-inch laptop screen.
Yeah. And you brought a friend who
first ever Hounds game
was also so new to soccer that you were like, about Messi, right? And he was like, who? And we were like, oh yeah. So is he a convert now? Like, do you think he'll be back?
He had a blast. On the drive down, he was telling me that he's from Burgettstown, lives here in Ambridge now, lives with one of the owners of my local Victory Beverage establishment, and just a nice guy. But he was telling me that his dad had texted him, "Oh, your brother and I are thinking about going down to a soccer game because we've never been to the stadium. He's like, so now I'm testing it out. He's like, oh yeah, they'll come. Like, I'll be back. Like, this was fun. He had a blast. So yeah, it was great to see someone not necessarily a soccer fan or know anything about it other than playing in middle school. So he understands like some of the things, but isn't really a soccer fan, to have a blast, enjoy the environment, see a win. Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had my wife's, like, all of her siblings and most of their kids came to the game, and I suckered them into being on the full 90, and I think they took full advantage of it. My one niece dropped a hell yeah on the podcast. So, like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll let it go. Yeah, feeling it for the kids, everybody. Let's talk before we get into the games, because there were 2 games. I think there was a lot of attention on the Detroit game because it was home. It was Detroit. They were giving away free stuff. We did play Louisville midweek, and we got a 1-0 win. Let's talk a little bit about the giveaways. There was the giveaways, and there was something else that we touched on. We were talking about internally. They're also selling a framed print from the night that the Hounds beat Columbus Crew that is signed by all of the players. Now, I don't think they were advertising this on their site. There was like a Twitter link that they put out that was going to some other page. There's a limited number of them. But, you know, you combine that with the miniature Highmark statues. And I was like, who is this team? Like, this is stuff that we haven't seen before. Really,
right. I mean,
stuff.
Like in the past, anytime they've done something that's like, oh, we're going to sell this stuff, it's been no longer players' jerseys, right? And I think the only one that ever got any traction was Nico Brett, because like, who wants to buy a Tony Walls jersey? Like it's no shade against Tony. Maybe it is. I don't know. Like, but
sounds like a little
he
shade.
wasn't. He like he didn't do anything for the Hounds. There's no place in I think any of our hearts for anything that he did. Right? It's not like he brought us to a new level or did something special on the field that everybody remembers. He's just one of those guys that came through and left. And this is cool. Like, yeah.
I mean, I already got one. My kids don't know it, but it'll probably be like a Christmas gift or something. But the fact that they left that game saying it was the best night of their lives, it was. What's that, Steve?
They're not listening tonight?
Of course not. No. No, they're actually, my oldest son he's out blacksmithing somewhere, and the other 2 are probably in the car on the way to visit their cousins. So, yeah, they're not around. I'm good. But no, it's a cool memento. It's like, you know, that's a moment in time that they definitely capitalized on. And then the statues, I mean, Josh, you know, you were saying the statues turned a lot better than you thought.
Yeah, like I saw some photos of them, and I was like, I don't know, like these could be kind of like pretty bad looking. But then seeing them in person, the paint job was a lot better. The actual, I don't know, like the way they actually made them looked a lot better than I thought they were going to be, and I'm pretty satisfied with them. And then I just want to talk about the frame photo real fast. So like they're selling the photo by itself in the stadium right now. Like you can just buy the photo, but it doesn't come in a frame and it's not signed. And then for $125, they're selling the frame photo with all the players' signature. And that's limited to, I think they originally had like 150 or 100. They're down to like 50 right now. So if you do want to get one of those, just check out their Twitter. You can scroll down a ways. It was before the game on Saturday. They tweeted out about it. I don't know where else. I'm sure they posted it like on emails and that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, if you want to get one of those, there's only 49 left. Actually, I just refreshed the page. So yeah, get one of those because those things look awesome.
Yeah. It's very cool.
They do.
And as Liz pointed out in the chat, there's already a secondary market for those stadiums. So I don't know what it was about the stadium in particular, but I mean, it was hot. Like there were people that you could tell definitely got there early to get a stadium. You know, Josh, I think as you pointed out, my family took home 1% of them. So it was just,
Well, when they only do 500 of them, it's not that hard to you know, do that. But it is a case where I feel like it kind of feels like in line with other stuff you see in Pittsburgh, other sports teams, as far as like doing these replica stadium things. And it kind of felt like I don't want to say like the big leagues, but it definitely felt like, a situation where it was the Hounds leaning on their popularity, leaning on like the recognized like the stadium itself. I love the fact that they included the skyline and the bridge. They kind of
Yeah.
tell the
Mhm.
only thing they were missing was a train going by. Like like they definitely kind of leaned in on it, which is great. And I don't know. It's cool to see them actually care about what this team and what they could mean to the community or do mean
Mhm.
to the community, and not feeling like they have to like, oh, we just give away free shirts. And that was like
Yeah.
the typical giveaway for the Hounds for the longest time.
Yeah, agreed. So cool stuff. It'll be interesting to sort of see where the team goes from here in terms of continuing to grow the popularity and continuing to grow sort of these unique, like limited edition type
Mhm.
things that they will sell and give away for popularity and all of that. So yeah, it was really cool. My kids were excited not just to get all of their stadiums signed by the players, but also the Mondalorian, who didn't have a pen at the start of signing, but somehow somebody got him a pen, and he was like, I'm not a player, right? They're like, we don't care. Like, you look like Mando. Sign the thing. So yeah. Josh, you got your victory beverage. Should we dive into these games?
Yeah. I only have one victory beverage.
That's
So
okay.
this is going to be for both games. I am deeply sorry for not having two. I forgot we had not talked about the Louisville game until just now.
Josh is only going to get partially sloshed tonight, so not fully. There you go. There's your
Nice.
victory beverage. I feel like we should start making up fake sponsors for the victory beverage now. We're doing them so often. We had like actual victory beverage for a while. Now it's not a thing, but we'll see. So guys, the first game we got to talk about here, the Hounds did beat Louisville 1-0 midweek. Just another sign of, the team sort of growing in popularity locally. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's definitely not frequent. I stopped by my father-in-law's house on Saturday before the game, and he was like, "Yeah, I watched that game on Wednesday night." He was like, "Man, they were up 1-0, but they were holding on for dear life at the end. Like, they should have just been trying to attack more and maybe holding Louisville at bay." And I was like, "You're not wrong." Like, as soon as we took Deke off in the 80th, it felt like we were bunkering a bit and just holding on. But yeah, for somebody who is sort of salt of the earth Pirate Steelers fan to be talking about the Hounds because he tuned in on a Wednesday night, I'm like, have they made it? Like, we're making it, I think. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Steve, give me a takeaway from the game other than watching it on a
Yeah.
11-inch laptop screen.
Chico's back, and
Yes.
it's fantastic. It's what this team has missed in the past month and a half at this point. A starting forward who can do pretty much everything in this league. His runs, his hold-up play, his ability on the ball, his ability off the ball, his ability to not just score goals, but to test the keeper even when he's not scoring. I think you saw that in his 45 minutes the game before, and you saw that this weekend on Saturday, where he was dangerous even if he wasn't the guy on the score sheet. Puts him back up with that goal, back up to Golden Boot race, tied for the lead, which is mind-boggling to me that when he got injured, he was tied at 9 with multiple players, and it wasn't any of those players that jumped ahead of him. None of those guys scored, including Russ, and so I mean he's got every chance to be the guy at the end of the year that has got the Golden Boot. But I think the big thing is the defensive effort for me is even better from the Hounds. It was another shutout, and we can talk about clean sheets a lot because there have been a lot of them, and it was another one of them, even without Waite in goal. But I mean, you look at that and you look at it, and it's I mean, here's a guy in goal that played with the team for 4 or 5 games, just over a month, and filled in really well, went up 1 goal in all of that time. And we get the win in Louisville, where, that's like our second home at this point, at least in the regular season. So great to see.
One of these days, I will get to see the Hounds beat Louisville at Highmark Stadium instead of always beating them at Lynn Stadium. Like it'll be nice to actually see us win at home.
Playoffs
I
this
would like
year?
to. I would like to go and see the Hounds win at Lynn Stadium.
I mean, I want to go there for
Like
the
I'll see that
bourbon,
too, but yeah.
not so much. But yeah, like it's maybe the playoffs. If Louisville makes the playoffs, we'll see. But
Oh how the tables have turned over the years. Yeah.
but no, I thought it was a great game, and also like that's not an easy place to play. It's but it has been somewhat lucky for the Hounds to be playing there. So I wasn't like completely surprised to see the win, but it's definitely nice to see. And Zamudio's last game with the Riverhounds on this loan spell, and so it was nice that he got to leave with a clean sheet for his last game. Only let in one goal the whole time he was here. That one goal was questionable how good his goalkeeping was for that one goal, but other than that one mistake, I would say he was a great keeper for us. So sad to see him go, but also very, very happy to see Jamali back.
I mean, talk about a vote of confidence from Lily. I mean, you literally have Zamudio, who, like you said, 5 games let in 1 goal, and like the second weight's available. It's see ya. Like have fun in DC. Well, we got Jamali back, and Jamali's plugged straight back in.
Yeah,
and gets another shutout.
I mean, the official team line was that he was recalled from his loan early, and I got to figure that's Bob saying, "Hey, our guy's back. If you want him, he's yours. Take him back." And DC was like, "Okay, we'll take him back." Right? Like I don't think DC was like, "Oh, we're monitoring the Gold Cup." Like,
right?
Yeah. But I mean, what do you do when it's Jamali Waite?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it in my mind. Like I no matter how good Zamudio is doing, like Jamali Waite is a fantastic keeper, and I think we're crazy if we don't use him.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about every season sort of the goalkeeper rotation and the goalkeeper competition. There was none of that this year. It was Jamali, and it was always going to be Jamali, and so kudos to him.
And I think that point is even further emphasized by when it wasn't Jamali, it was a keeper on loan. That those other guys are nowhere close, and Bob gave them a chance, didn't see enough, so went out and found somebody that could fill in when his first choice wasn't available.
Yeah.
That is a little concerning in my opinion, though. Like, you would have thought that one of our other 2 keepers would have been up to snuff to take that starting position for a month while Jamali was out. The fact that Bob didn't feel that comfortable with them makes me worried about what happens if Waite gets injured, like during a game, or just even if it's just a little knock that you can't play for the rest of the game. Like, that's not a great vote of confidence for these players. So yeah.
Robbie had a crazy save at the end of the game against Louisville. Basically, they had sort of an open net, and I don't even think he was facing the ball. Like, he sort of fell backwards and just like stuck his leg out on the line, and it was enough to knock it away. Lots of scramble. Look, Louisville's keeper looks legit. He's a rookie. He's been top of the league in terms of saves and things like that. So Louisville once again has found themselves some talent there. He kept them in that game. We had a number of chances that we could have put more away. Chico's goal was just, I mean, I don't know of anybody that was going to save that. It was just sort of well worked. The ball was right to him. The defender completely drifted away from him, and it was almost a tap in. And so again, Steve, to your point, it's Chico doing Chico things, and it's special. So glad to see they got the win.
I also want to point out not just Chico doing Chico things, but him being in the right spot, which is, I think, something we've struggled with while he was injured. We haven't always had that striker in that spot, but it was also on the second cross from the opposite side, because the ball came in. I think it was Roby passed it from the right side. It went through the box. Nobody touched it. And Junior Eto picks it up and left-footed cross right to Chico's feet for the ball in the back of the net. I mean, just excellent movement by the team as well to be there and to do those things. And I think that's something that we haven't seen in the past, and that's one of the differences with this team this year.
Yeah. And I mean, just another shout out. Kenny was there, but Kenny again drifted away from Chico to create that space for him. So it was, yeah, it's like you said, it was a great team goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, I mean, it feels very weird to come into this show and be like, yeah, we beat Louisville, because it's like that's what we've been singing about for the past few years of like, we got it, that's the bar, we got to beat Louisville. And I don't know if it's the fact that Louisville wasn't top of the league when we did it that like sort of taints it a little bit, but it's Louisville. They're a very good organization. They're extremely well run. They're going to be in the playoffs this year. And so to go and just sort of methodically take a 1-0 win from them at home is great, especially since we just played them 3 games ago and ended up a 0-0 draw at Highmark.
Right.
So nice little retribution for keeping the 3 points from us at home.
But I think that's part of it, right? Like we knew what we were up against, and they couldn't figure out a way to make the difference. And after we saw them, and I mean, they are a good defensive team, and they were a good defensive team in the game on Wednesday as well. We've kept them from scoring, just like we kept Sacramento from scoring, right? Like good offensive teams were keeping from scoring. And we found a way in one of those games to put a ball in the back of the net and get the points that give us the win.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like it for some reason, but this is like quintessential 3 or 4 years ago Lily ball. Like shut down defense, 1 or 2 goals, and that's it. And I know that a lot of people at the time were like, it's boring, it's predictable. This does not feel boring or predictable. The Louisville game, we control the majority of that game. Like until the end, like I said, when we sort of took Chico off and took our foot off the gas a little bit, we had multiple opportunities in playing in their end.
But don't you think the difference is this year we're seeing the press that Bob started to try to implement last year actually working? Whereas a few years ago when we were top of the East, we were sitting a lot farther back and hunkering defensively. This year, it's not about that. Sure, other teams may have more possession, but their possession is oftentimes in their third, passing between the keeper and the center backs, and they might get the ball out, but then they're having to revert back, right? We're shutting down the forward attempts of a lot of these teams, even the good passing teams. And I think that that's evident in taking 4 points from 2 games with Louisville, taking a point against Sacramento, other teams that have the capacity to beat anybody in this league.
Yeah, agreed. So that sort of segues into the game on Saturday where the Hounds beat Detroit 2-0. I predicted 4-0. I was bummed that it wasn't that much of a rout. But listen, to Detroit's credit, it felt like, I didn't go back and watch this game on TV. I went back and watched the highlights. It felt like for a large portion of the game, it was played not at the Steel Army end, especially in the first half. It felt like Detroit, after we scored, not that we let off a little bit, but Detroit did hang in there. But yeah, give me Josh, give me a takeaway from this one.
I mean, hang in there, I do feel like is a little bit generous because they had like no shots on goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this was a situation where there's a lot for Jamali to do. There's a lot of, like, oh no, they're going to score. It was pretty much all like, they're not going to score, but we're not getting as many attacking opportunities as we want. So, and the fact that we scored within the first, like, what was it, 7 minutes or something like that? Like, what was the first goal?
It was the
Eighth minute.
goal.
Yeah. So, like, scoring so early on meant that they kind of could just play with it. Like, let them try to attack and, like, just not be able to close us down or break through our defense. So, this was definitely a game where I did not feel concerned the entire game. There wasn't a moment where I'm like, I don't know, maybe Detroit's going to pull this off. It's like, no, they're not going to pull this off. Maybe they'll get a lucky goal, but I don't feel like we are in trouble ever.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, but I think a big part of that is we knew this going into the game that Detroit is, dead last in the league in offensive numbers. They're not bad defensively. They're, 5th or 6th in the league in defense, with 20 goals going into the match that they've let up. But they've only scored 13. So, I mean, they've let up now 22 goals, and so they have a -9 goal differential. I think the bigger thing is, for me, I look at what the Hounds did, and I'll reference the Louisville game with this, but in the Detroit game, 8 shots, 5 on target, 2 goals. In the Louisville game, 9 shots, 6 on target, 1 goal, right? Like this is a team that I think we're starting to see do more offensively than we've ever seen, even if we're not sitting there with the same possession numbers that some of our opponents have, because we're working the ball well, we're working the ball efficiently. But then at the same time, I mean, this is maybe, I'd have to go back and look, but I think, if I recall, maybe the lowest conversion rate of any Bob Lilly team in Pittsburgh, with only 16% of our shots as goals. That's a concern, mainly because we're 21 out of 24 teams in shots taken. But we're still middle of the pack in goals, right? And with our defense, I think that supplements that really well. And you saw that in this game. I mean, Detroit had one opportunity that went off the top of the bar late in the game when we had done quite a bit of rotation and some of our starters were starting to get tired. And that was really all they had the entire game. Whereas we had numerous other chances to score in the game, even ones that wouldn't show up in those shots or shots on target stats, where there was those slight misses of the ball, but good work going forward by the Hounds. And I think sure it could have easily been a 4-0 win, and we wouldn't be questioning that because of the way the team played.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I was trying to scrub through the highlights to find the play, but there was a play I remember Hogan closed down a play that was like basically a one-on-one with the keeper.
Cleaned him out.
Yeah, and Hogan came in with a clutch slide tackle, and it was clean, and it was just beautiful. But I can't remember when that was.
I don't think it was in the highlights.
Was it not in the highlights? Okay.
I don't think it was, because I watched through the highlights a couple times, but I talked to Pat about it afterwards, and I said, I was like, man, that was a tackle. And he was like, and he just like got a grin on his face. I was like, is that your best tackle of the year? He's like, yeah, I think so.
That was like right in front of the Steel Army and everything. And I was just like, ooh, that was nice.
I was waiting for the ref to pull. I mean, the refs will typically get a little whistle happy, and that was, I believe, in the box.
It was, yeah.
But I remember when it happened, just going, ooh, yeah, it looked clean. But
it still took him out. Like it was a clean tackle, but it still like looked like the
player thought he was in, and Pat came from behind and just cleaned him out. One thing I want to circle back to real quick, Steve. You were talking a little bit about the stats as it relates to defensively, offensively, how things are going. I think what is interesting is, prior to doing like any of these shows, I'll sit down and I'll do a comparison between the Hounds and the team that we're playing next. So in this case, we're playing the Battery this weekend. The USL makes it very easy. You basically can pick multiple teams, and then it'll just compare them side by side statistically. And one of the things that has surprised me over the past few weeks as I've been comparing the Hounds to other teams is statistically how many shots we don't allow against us. Basically meaning that the shots aren't making it to the keeper. So yes, we do now have 10 clean sheets. Half of our games so far this season have been clean sheets, which is fantastic. But when you look at some of these other teams and we're facing half the number of shots that they have, that tells me that this is less a scenario whereby Jamali's really good or Zamudio is really good. They are really good, but we're not relying on our keeper to get these clean sheets and to keep the score low in the way that all of these other teams are. When we are facing half the number of shots of other teams, that is a team effort to make that happen. That's not, so in that case, I think that Waite is still in the running for the Golden Glove, but he's facing half as many shots as everybody else. So he's got to get a lot of clean sheets to, sort of make up for that fact. But that is encouraging from a standpoint of, as we continue to go forward, knowing that we may give up half as many shots as the other team, even if the other team is an offensive powerhouse, that puts you in a position whereby you've got a better shot of at least drawing or winning, because we're just not letting up shots on net. Which is cool.
I think that's, a big part of that is the tactical lineups that Bob has been putting out, where the majority of the games, it was surprising to me in this game against Detroit when Joe left the game and Pat came in, that you see Pat pointing to Arturo, no, you're playing center, right? Because the MO for all season has been Pat or Joe, who are not known for their speed, as the center of the back three, with Arturo and either Alal or Mike or Nate flanking them. Like pick your choice, right? And so it was a little different of a lineup at that point in the game than we've seen. But I think that's because like you've got that smart, intelligent, can see things in those more experienced guys, and then you've got the fast, athletic, and not that they're not smart and intelligent, but they're just so much faster, so much more athletic, but don't have necessarily the experience, right? Like, I mean, Pat and Joe have built that over years, whereas we're talking about the rest of those guys, 2-3 year pros each, learning to do some of those things as they go. And it worked in this game, right? Like it worked in the Louisville game. It worked in the Sacramento game. It worked in the previous Louisville game. I think I saw that it was 458 minutes since the Hounds have last let up a goal. That's insane.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure that's not a league record, but I'd be surprised if that's not a Hounds record.
I think it is a Hounds record. I think, or at least in the Lily era, it's a record there. There was a press release, I think, that mentioned it. I don't remember off the top of my head, though.
I want to say that the streak for the Hounds is 16 games. I thought that's what the USL said. They might have said it in the power rankings, or not the power. Maybe it was the power rankings that came out today, where I think we're at 14 games. We have we haven't lost in 13 games. I think the record for the Hounds is 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a record for the Lily era, if I remember. They made that caveat that
yeah.
As far as Lily's tenure, it is a record for Lily's team.
Yes. Yeah. Because the last time we did it, it was back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Holy crap!
Had to be 99.
Yeah, it was 99.
I would say we formed in the 90s or late 90s. So.
In the last possible second.
So. I mean,
with that though, right? Like that's one of those games that was still a win when we gave up that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the last time we lost was April 22nd in El Paso. So really 3 months ago. We've played.
Does that not seem like such a long time ago and such a different team?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Wait, was that before?
Yeah.
Griffin?
I think that was the last game before Danny re-signed, I believe.
I
might be wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey, Kev, where are you?
Yeah. Kevin's in Copenhagen. He's not listening to this right now.
He's probably asleep by now.
He's probably asleep, man. What else, guys? Give me something else from this one.
This isn't game on the field, but we did a tifo. Steel Army had a tifo for this game.
Beautiful.
And it was of Dequa kicking a ball and then nice golden glittered stripe boot. Yep. And it was hilarious because of course he wanted it, which was fantastic. Some great pictures of him like having it out on the field, admiring it. And all I can think about is the fact that it has glitter in it, and that glitter is going to be everywhere now. His house is always going to have glitter everywhere. So have fun with that.
Yeah. The video, Steve, that you took of the tifo has over 2,500 views on YouTube. So like people loving it. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I uploaded it as a YouTube short.
Cool.
Yeah, people are digging the tifo. So great job to.
That might be my best social media engagement ever. Woo-hoo.
I mean, half of them are probably Pico, so
it's
take that with a grain of salt. But
he's playing it on
a loop, like on his TV. Yeah,
sending it to all his family and friends.
All right, so now I feel like now we need to do some like investigative journalism because now all three players that the Steel Army have made tifos for have now taken the tifo. I want to know what they've done with the tifo. Like, is it just sitting in a closet somewhere, or did they actually hang it on a wall? So, Steve, that's going to be your homework. The next time you see Kizza or Dequa or Kenny, be like, "Where's the tifo? Like, where'd you put it?" And let us know.
You're gonna be asking them like these tactical questions, these training questions, and then like, oh, and one more thing, where's the tifo?
Where's the tifo?
Chico would probably tell me.
Yeah, Kizza would tell you too. Kizza, he was.
I think with Eddie, he'll just be like, "Huh? Like it'll just take him so by surprise.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. JC got his first minutes, so the Hounds new forward that they signed subbed him in at the end. I thought he looked okay. Like I mean, it's your first time playing with the team. It's a 10-15 minute run in. He wasn't awful. He sort of held up play a little bit. He was sort of connecting with Tola a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what the plan is for him moving forward, because we talked about how this is Chico's offense. So unless something happens or he needs a breather, even at that, it feels like Tola is sort of the like for like replacement at this point. So what does JC bring?
So you guys talked about that last week. I did a little digging to try to get some more insight. And from what I can gather, I think the idea for Bob is, well, first of all, I know Trevor has the same agency as him, as does another player. So there was already that connection with the team, with the agency group, him coming available. But it's a guy Bob knows after him playing for Hartford. And he's a guy that I think, from what I can gather, Bob sees as someone who can do some of the things that Dixon did for the team going forward. So maybe not necessarily a wingback player, but maybe moving up more into the midfield or as a straight front winger.
Like an attacking winger.
Yeah, as an attacking winger. And I think that's the difference, that he gives Bob another tool that can put somebody out there that does something that the other guys can't currently do at that same level. And so I think and he's got a good track record. We had double-digit goals in Hartford. Like, bring it on. Seems like a real nice guy. I only talked to him for like 45 seconds, but he was all smiles, like glad to be here. Just like he looked like he was really having a good time already. So it was great.
Should we read anything into the fact that he came on for Forbes? I mean, does that mean anything absolutely at all?
I mean, it means that Kenny's legs are tired.
Exactly. That's why I'm like,
right? Like, no, I don't think it says anything about Obregon. I think it's just like, no, I got to take Kenny off.
Yeah. I mean, Dequa came off at the exact same time. Yeah. And technically showing me winning for Dequa and CJ winning, or JC winning for Kenny.
I do think it's interesting, though, because we did talk a little bit last week about just the midfield and how it's not a problem, or if it is a problem, it's a really good problem to have, but it's hard to tell who do you start in the midfield, because we have so many good midfield players. And now you bring in somebody like JC, that if he's going to play as an attacking winger, does that mean that now you have one less midfielder that you're trying to get on the field? And again, it's a good problem for Bob to have. I think that tactically he's gotten it right the past however many games, because we haven't lost. So that's just going to be one of those challenges that he's going to have to continue to face, is juggling all of these players and making sure that, they're staying fresh and that he can plug them in where he needs them in the situations that he needs them. And, our buddy.
I also wouldn't be surprised in the next game or two if we see Bob revert to a back four and put him on and take a winger off. And I say that only because Nate Dos Santos still overcoming his sprain that he got a couple weeks ago. Alalo Samano has a sprain from the Louisville game that is going to take him, it looks like, a little longer to get over. His looks more severe. I say that just based on the fact that he was in a boot. But talk to him. It's a sprain, not a break. He was in good spirits about it. But, on defense, you're starting to see some of that attrition. And without getting Nate back, you're looking at a defense where you're talking about your two fast defenders and your two slower defenders. And so if one more gets hurt, then what are you doing, right? So I think you might see something like that, especially when you've got a lineup that's got offensive wing backs out there. Maybe you're putting Rovey back out there, and Luke is still injured as well, right? Like he expects to be back on Saturday, but Luke is still not available to play this past weekend. So we're talking about a lot of hurt on the back line, and for one of the strongest, most depth-filled positions or parts of the field, all of a sudden with a few injuries, it's getting a little thin. And so maybe you do see a tactical shift in the formation, and you see Obregon playing farther forward in that case.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Any other takeaways from this game, guys?
I don't know what to take away from watching a team that doesn't know how to score, not know how to score, and a team that knows how to break teams down unless they're absolutely top tier, and still break down some of those top tier teams and find ways to get goals. Right? Like, it's an
So
expected win.
So your takeaway was to burn Detroit. Cool. Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's fair.
Meh.
That's fair. And to be fair, Detroit fans, they traveled. There were some there. I saw that there was some crap on Twitter, as there always is, where they were complaining about security guards around their section, which the rest of
maybe
the
you shouldn't flip
USL
off little kids.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the USL Twitter was very quick to jump all over that. The Steel Army didn't even have to do anything. So whatever.
Detroit's not Detroit
found
unless they're complaining. So
yeah, I found it pretty funny when Louisville played at Highmark. A few of us went over and talked to their supporters groups, got some of their version of victory beverage from them, and had a great time. And said to one of the guys, I was like, "Oh, glad you're here." He's like, "Yeah, no, it's great to be here." I was like, "Better than having Detroit fans." He's like, "Oh, bleep them," and I just lost it.
Good. Yeah. So it's not just us. Like,
Yeah,
for a while, I was like, "Are we just being biased against Detroit?" No. Good. Well, good. I mean, another solid 3 points. It was a great night. I think there was a lot of concern about rain. It drizzled for a little bit, but by the end of the game, a beautiful sunset. Over the back of Highmark. That's a case where the fans in the grandstand are totally missing it because they're just looking at the city, and the Steel Army has the clean shot straight at the sunset. So, yeah, another great evening, guys. If we look at the standings, I already mentioned it, but the Hounds are now sitting squarely at the top of not just the East, but the league. We're sitting on 38 points in 20 games, almost averaging 2 points a game, which is fan-friggin-tastic. We've won 10, lost 2, and tied 8. And we have a plus 13 goal differential, which is the best in the East. Right behind us, we got the Rowdies, who are sitting on 34 points. So 4 points back, but they have one game in hand. They've played one less game than we have. The Battery, who we face this weekend, are 5 points back. And we'll talk about them in a second. Rounding out your playoff teams at this point are Memphis. Louisville dropped down to 5th. Birmingham in 6th. Tulsa in 7th. Indy at 8th. And then beneath the playoff line, you have Loudoun, Detroit, Miami, and Fraudford, who have lost 13 games and have a negative 18 goal differential. So I think they're on our schedule here coming up soon. So that'll be a fun one.
So bad.
I will say, the pick'em is getting heated now because we had a couple people gain a lot of ground this week. We got a couple of score predictions dead on. So still leading things is Laura Ellen with 20 points. I'm at 19, but now Keaton Liebengood has surpassed Kev, who was sitting comfortably at the top just a few weeks ago. Keaton has 19 points. Kev has 18, followed closely by Michael Finn at 17 and Devin Pale at 16. And then we got a whole bunch at 15. So again, especially with these multi-game weeks, it's very easy to pick up. I shouldn't say it's easy. If you pick up some points, you can climb the table pretty quickly. So I would love for nothing more than to be outpaced here by somebody that isn't on the Mongols crew. So keep it up, those of you near the top. And for those of you that aren't, make sure that you head over to YouTube. That is where we will post basically a day and a half to 2 days before every game. We'll put up a post where you just leave a comment with your score predictions. You get 3 points if you get the score right, 1 point if you get the result right. So win, tie, draw. No points if you get it wrong. Whoever has the most points come the end of the season is going to get 2 free tickets for 2024 to sit with the Steel Army. So there's some skin in the game here. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. Guys, moving ahead just a little bit, we do play the Battery this weekend before we then come home for the next 4 games. So this was that stretch that we were talking about where it's just a whole lot of Hounds. Josh, you were saying that, you like home games, but you got to work, man.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I'm enjoying it, and it's been great to see that the rest of Pittsburgh's enjoying it. Like the stadium has been pretty much a sellout every single game.
Yeah,
and if they're still selling out, cool. then keep it going. I was a little bit worried about fatigue from fans, but haven't seen it so far. So
Yeah. I would say, if anything, I think that maybe there was a little bit less of a turnout this week because of the threat of rain. But beyond that, there was a Buccos game going on. There were people in boats like waiting for fireworks from the Pirates game, and Highmark was still pretty much packed.
yeah,
So
I mean they registered 5,150.
yeah, so that's a sellout.
So I mean, if they all didn't show up, okay, but still,
Yeah.
over 5,000 people bought tickets.
But I mean, so right, we just got done with 4 Saturday home games in a row. All 4 of those Saturday home games, I believe, were sellouts again. I mean, there's been 2 games the entire season that the team hasn't sold out the seating capacity, which is 5,000. The one was the home opener where it was 3,800 and something, I think, and the other one was 4,800. Right? Like, I mean, so close that it's like it's almost a sellout to begin with. That's way different than I think any of us have ever experienced at Highmark. I mean, we were talking about sellouts being the rare thing once a season, maybe, and we're talking about 2 games that didn't sell 5,000 or more tickets already this season. It's great.
Yeah, expansion's guaranteed at this point, as far as like off season making
Yeah,
that.
well, it's got to happen. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I
can't imagine it won't happen.
I think the thing I'm like most like really about is talking to somebody in the front office saying during the Columbus game that they think with 6,100 people they could have still fit another 500 more people in the stadium as is, and I'm like, wow. I mean, we talked about it, right? Like,
yeah,
you barely get to Mike.
You came and told me that
Right.
during the game, where you were like
Yeah.
standing on top of people
Right.
and like laying on people's shoulders to tell me that. I'm like, really? Yeah, I don't think we can. Yeah,
they wouldn't have been able to fit them in the Steel Army section. That's for sure. I don't know what the rest of the stadium was like because I couldn't leave the Steel Army section to see the rest of the stadium. But definitely not in that section. That game.
Yeah, agreed. No, it will be a very interesting off season for sure to sort of see the changes that come to Highmark. Maybe we'll talk to somebody. We'll get some news. Maybe get them on the show. It's been a while since we talked to Tuffy. I wonder if Tuffy would want to come back on the show. We'll see. Maybe. I waved at Jeff at the end of the game. I was like, "Hey, Jeff," and I think he was like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hi, Jeff."
He's a listener, not a viewer. So
I know. It's fine.
probably just didn't recognize you.
I don't really care. It's cool.
Yeah, Jeff's great, but I think he definitely is one of those people that is like he has to tie a face.
Yeah,
I think he knows who I am. I don't know. I think he knows my name.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, guys. So we got the Battery this weekend. Road game. So Josh, you get a breather, and then 4 in a row, man. So enjoy this break. But last time we played the Battery was at Highmark roughly a month ago. We beat them 2-0. That was the game where Etu scored the fastest goal in the league at that point. I think it was the fastest one in Hounds history. It was all in that first minute, and then Tola got the clincher in the 83rd minute. Looking at just sort of what to expect from the Battery since we last played them. Statistically, they're 3rd in the East. But again, this gets back to some of the stuff I talked about earlier. They've given up twice as many goals as us. More than twice as many goals. They've given up 29 goals to our 12.
Right.
They've also faced more than twice as many shots, 82 to our 39. So just, think about it. We've played 20 games and we have teams that have given up, more than twice as many shots and have more than twice as many goals against. But otherwise, statistically, we're pretty much the same. So this again gets back to that whole defensive effort of just we're not letting shots get to the keeper, and those shots that are making the keeper aren't going in. So it will be interesting, Steve, to your point about injuries and whether or not we can get healthy enough that doesn't actually impact things here down the stretch. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think with that, right? So my sense is we're going to see Luke probably this next week. I if not, we'll see him very soon after, maybe the Wednesday game. We're going to see Nate this weekend or Wednesday or the next weekend for sure, right? That adds to that. But we didn't talk about this, but we can talk about, we've seen times where Mike DeShields has made mistakes and it's been his fault that we've given up goals at times, but he was flawless, I think, in this game and had that excellent assist to to Eddie on Saturday.
Yep.
I mean, what a ball. I mean, dribbles the ball forward and then an excellent pass to split two defenders where Eddie takes a 2-touch back of the net shot, right? Like, I mean, you're seeing even some of these guys that we're relying on when our first choice, second choice aren't there, doing really well and filling in really well at this point. And I think that goes to it. I mean, you were talking, Mike, about the actual numbers. I think the rankings of those are also really important. That we've talked about this. The Hounds tied for first in least number of goals allowed. Charleston's at 17th out of 24. Right? They're letting up a lot of goals in this league. They may be 7th in goals scored with 28, but they're still at a -1 goal differential, whereas the Hounds might only be 13th, so about midway in goals scored, but a +13 goal differential. And I think that makes a really, really big difference when you're looking at it. Here's a team that, okay, and I'll give Charleston the benefit of the doubt and recognize that they did have one game where they got everything dropped on them by San Antonio. I think it was a 7-0 loss for Charleston. But you don't see the Hounds anywhere near that, right? Like, sure, they might have a negative goal differential because of that one game, but they still had it, right? Like, it means they're vulnerable by a good team.
I mean, they haven't looked good lately, and in that, within the last month or so stretch, they played Hartford and they barely beat Hartford. It was 3-4, and Hartford was down to 10 men, and before that, they actually scored another goal after getting down to 10 men, and were up by like 3-1 or something like that. And then finally, after they went down to 10 men, Charleston was able to get some goals on there. Like, Hartford, negative goal differential of 18, got 3 past them. One of those goals with 10 men.
That was a game too where like the USL was like, look at how resilient the Battery are. And I'm like, why were you down to Hartford in the first place? Let's have that conversation. Like, yeah, great, you came back, but like you dug yourself that hole there, guys.
And like some of those other ones they've had this like within the last month or so has been like Loudon and like other bottom feeder teams. So I'm not that, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is a very, very winnable game.
Yeah, I mean, they've tied Detroit fairly recently. They've what was it? They 1 out of 4 points from Indy, or 1 out of 6 points from Indy.
Yeah, I'm not concerned.
Right? Like, they're just not. I'm not afraid of that team.
I can't believe they're so high up in the standings. Like, I'm just surprised.
Yeah, I mean, since they played us, they've won 2, lost 1, and drew 2. On the flip side, we've had 3 wins and 3 draws. So statistically, that means nothing unless you're talking about the teams like you guys are. But that just sort of paints the picture for you. We've had the better time since then. Obviously, we're sitting at the top. They are 4-3-3 at home, which is actually worse than their away record. So, this isn't Fort Highmark that we're going into. This is a game that could definitely be had. In terms of players to keep an eye on, Augustine Williams has 8 goals for them. Their offense is likely going to flow through them. In their last game against Miami, they rolled out a 4-2-3-1 where he was at the point of it. So just something to watch out for. But yeah, I mean, you guys alluded to the fact that it doesn't seem like there's a lot to be worried about here. I don't want to call this a trap game because I don't think it's a trap game, but I could also see us not getting a win here. Like, I could see this being a draw. I don't see us losing, but I could see it being a draw.
Based on what, though?
I don't know. Like, it's just like gut
based off
feeling.
Of past being scared. That's pretty much.
I guess.
Edging our bets.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. How long can we stay on this streak? I mean, obviously, if we get just a few more games, we'll set our record. But like I said, I don't think we're going to lose, but I guess 1-0 win. I'll start it off. I'll say my prediction is a 1-0 win. It's going to be like 4-0 now because I said 1-0. But Steve, what do you think?
I think away from home, we've had a tight, congested schedule. We've pushed ourselves hard. I think it's a 3-1 win. So we give up a goal, but we still get the win. But we come out, and this isn't a very good team. We're going to expose their defense, I think. I think a big part of that is everything that I see from the Desire when I talk to the players is that they're dissatisfied. They feel like they dropped points against Louisville in the first game and dropped points against Sacramento, but they lost 4, right? Like they're not like, oh yeah, we got out of there against a really good team with a draw. And it's like we lost 4 points in those 2 games, right? And multiple players have had that attitude, so they're hungry. They're willing to go out and put it in, and I think that goes back to what Bob talked about with me at the beginning of the season of this is the most committed group of players he's had in Pittsburgh, and they're fighters, and they're going to go out and they're going to give it all, and they're going to work hard. And I think we're starting to see that. And when they don't get the results that they think they should get, they're pissed.
I think
there
is
on their shoulder.
There's a whole conversation to be had too about, you just said like, Charleston's not a good team. And I don't disagree with you, but they're also sitting 3rd in the East. So I think that there's this level of, are we spoiled this season? Like, are the Hounds just that good that every other team is just not very good? Like, that's just sort of the lens through which we view them. We haven't seen a team. I mean, Louisville towards the end of that game at Lynn Family, we're up 1-0. We pulled Dequa off. To your point, we don't have a full crop of defenders. But like, when you're top of the league, it's very easy to look around and be like, nobody really scares you. And so it will be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out.
I mean, I'd agree with that, because the teams that I'm worried about are the teams that have given us a bit of trouble. Sacramento, San Antonio. I'm worried about the Rowdies because we still have to face them twice.
Yeah.
They're a good team that is in good shape. But I'm not worried in the sense that I don't think we can't beat the Rowdies twice.
Right.
I think that's more than possible. I just think it's going to be a good test, and it's going to be the best test we've had since Sacramento, which was the best test we had since San Antonio. And this looks like a really different team than the team that played San Antonio.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm worried. The only team I'm really worried about in these is the Rowdies, and I'm questionable about that worry now because of the fact that they just lost their coach. Like, with Collins gone, like, I don't know what they look like now. Like, they lost their first game without him. Doesn't mean anything really. It's just one game, but it's still like maybe we don't have to be as worried about the Rowdies as we thought.
Well, and they just dropped 3 points to Birmingham.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first game they played without having Collins, their coach.
Yeah.
So we'll see. As far as did we do score prediction? I have not.
We started. You have not done yours yet. Yes.
This is score predictions. We just got off track.
I was like, wait, where were we at?
Steve and I we're like winding rivers. We just kind of like in and out and around and
Charleston game, I'm thinking 2-0. I'm not too worried about them scoring. I don't think we're quite there yet where we're going to be putting 3 past them, but I think 2-0 is a good spot to be, especially away, obviously.
So that's what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think. I mentioned already, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Threads. On Twitter, we're at Mongols. On Threads, we're at Mongols Pod. On YouTube, we are at Mongols. Ultimately, Threads and Twitter are all going to point you right at YouTube. So you might as well just go and subscribe at YouTube. As I mentioned, we have all sorts of videos up there. When Steve does player interviews, we put them over there. We put up all sorts of YouTube shorts and things like the unveiling of Chico's Tifo, which, as we said, over 2,500 views. So head over to YouTube, follow us there. And then 2 days before the game, that's when the post goes up. You can leave your score predictions. We're all predicting wins. So it'll be interesting to sort of see if you disagree or if you agree, but you agree with a different score line. So go leave your comments and hopefully you can climb that table and maybe get your hands on 2 free season tickets for next season. Guys, it's a great time to be a Hounds fan. I mean, anything else? Any other thoughts before we close this one out?
I mean, I know how
great
crazy
time to be a
this
Hounds
was.
fan.
I know how crazy the stadium thing was, but like these ammo bobbleheads, man, they're going to be even more.
Wait. When is the ammo bobblehead?
I haven't looked.
I had circled the stadium. I was like, for sure, but yeah, I could see the ammo bobblehead.
I think that's going to be even more crazy. Like, I feel like more people are going to want those.
There's one thing that I will say, like one feedback, Jeff, if you're listening, because we know you don't watch, but if you listen but don't watch, what do we do with the boxes once we get in the stadium? That was the one thing I was like, oh, okay, now we're walking around. Like, you can't have a bag. They have the whole like clear bag policy kind of thing. Well,
there's a new policy for bags.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look it up. It's
I
weird.
totally missed that. Like we had like a really small clear bag, so we walked in. We're like, yeah, we got stadiums, and then it was like, now what do we do with them? And like we were like leaving them on the bleachers and like trying to keep them dry, and it was like a whole thing. So maybe that's not a concern. Maybe there's a new bag policy.
You would have had enough room in your bag for them if you didn't take 5.
Take 5, yeah. That's very true. Listen, as Liz pointed out, I know there is an aftermarket. I think one of ours have already been claimed, which is fine. I'm happy to give one. Actually, my wife already gave away 2 of them because her family showed up like as kickoff was happening. And so she gave 2 of those away. We had 3 left, twisted the boys' arms, and we're going to give one of them to Laura, Ellen, and Justin, who we know couldn't make it to the game. The other ones, the boys got the feet, like the statue actually signed by players. So they want to hold on to them. So I was like, okay, that's fine.
And by the way, it is August 5th. Is against the Rowdies is the bobblehead giveaway.
Oh man, that's gonna be enough. Oh wait, the 5th. Oh, okay. Is that? Oh, it's a Saturday. Yeah,
Saturday game. Yeah, against the Rowdies.
Interesting.
2.5 weeks, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, considering the rush that there was for the stadium, just keep that in the back of your mind if you want. Listen, there's a lot going on that weekend, but. If my kids know that it's Ambo bobblehead night, we might be carrying that in too.
Do another pit tour.
Yeah, we might have to. So okay. Well, like I said, that's what we think. Let us know what you think. Check us out all over the place, social media, YouTube, all that fun stuff. And otherwise, I guess we will talk to you very, very soon.
Later.